Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Scott Ritter. And Scott and I are going to discuss what's going on with Iran. So I saw on Twitter a couple of days ago, you were not very happy about this. So can you give us an overview of the situation that you perceive it to be?
Well, the situation is that Donald Trump is trying to impose his will on the Middle East, his vision on the Middle East, which he claims is a vision of peace. Um, but in order to achieve this vision, everybody has to align themselves up with how Donald Trump sees the world, and not necessarily how what the reality is. And one of the problems with Donald Trump's vision is that it is heavily influenced by Israel. And that means it is going to be in direct competition with, confrontation with many of the power structures in the Middle East that need to um, come in alignment with Trump's vision if peace is going to be had. One of these power structures is Iran. Um, Iran, though, becomes more complicated because it's not just about Trump versus Iran and Trump trying to be irrational when it comes to seeking Iranian conformity. Actually, Donald Trump is the most level-headed of the American presidents that we've had since the Islamic Revolution in 1979 when it comes to how America could coexist with Iran. Every president since the Iranian Revolution has sought regime change. Our strategic goal, as articulated overtly and covertly, is to remove the theocracy from power. That's always been our objective. The CIA has been working very strenuously over the decades to achieve just that end. Donald Trump has come out and said I don't seek that. In fact, I'm willing to live with the Islamic Republic, and I would like to see a world where the Islamic Republic is, trading and economically interacting free of sanctions. But Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Now there'll be we'll start to see immediately counter arguments come in and say, well, Israel has a nuclear weapon. Israel is not a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. End of debate.
So you're not worried about Israel having nuclear weapons, is
I
that
didn't say that, Cynthia.
okay?
I didn't say I'm not worried about Israel having a nuclear weapon. I'm saying it doesn't factor in to Iran's situation. Iran is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. There is no, paragraph or there's nothing in the NPT that says, yes, but you can violate the NPT because Israel has a nuclear weapon.
Okay.
Iran signed it. That's the law. Iran's not allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And if Iran seeks to have a nuclear weapon for any reason, they're in violation of the law and therefore are viewed as a threat against international peace and security. That's a decision Iran made when they signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And it's something that's been recognized by Iran from day one when they say, we don't have a nuclear weapons program. But the problem with Iran is that they do have a nuclear weapons program and they have admitted it. They haven't reached the final phases of it, but when you have successive senior members of the Iranian government, to include Jalili, the former nuclear negotiator, currently sitting on the Expediency Discernment Council, who advises the Supreme Leader himself and advises the National Security Council and the President, saying that the fatwa is a political decision, fatwa declaring that nuclear weapons are haram or prohibited under Islam. It's a political decision that is influenced by current affairs. And if a situation arises where we deem that a threat exists to Iran of an existential nature that requires us to have a nuclear weapon, then we can undo the fatwa. So Iran has already had the discussions about undoing the fatwa. Then you have various people involved in this process saying that we have developed the capability, we are on the cusp. All we need is that political decision, and within a week or so, we could have a nuclear bomb. I'm not saying it, although that's my assessment. They're saying it. They're saying that if the Supreme Leader says we need a nuclear weapon, within a week or so, they can have a nuclear weapon. Why? Because they have built and installed and have functioning the IR6 and IR8 advanced centrifuges. They have a huge stockpile of 60% enriched uranium hexafluoride, the feedstock to these centrifuges. These centrifuges have been configured to rapidly convert the 60% into 95, 98%, which is usable in a nuclear bomb. Iran has shown the capacity to convert uranium hexafluoride into uranium metal. How? Because the metal plates that are used to fuel the Tehran research reactor at 20% enrichment are uranium metal. It's the same process. So now they enrich the uranium hexafluoride to 95, 98%. It'll take a couple days to do this. Then they convert that into a metal. Now they have a certain mass, depends on how they design the bomb, but 5 kilograms, 10 kilograms of material. You take a slug, you have a gun design, they have a missile, they've already designed the warhead. They can deliver a nuclear weapon to Israel or to any place within range of their missiles in less than a month. Okay, that now I'm Donald Trump, and I say that will never be allowed to happen under my watch. So
Okay.
Trump has told the Iranians straight up, you have to get rid of your nuclear program. And
And
the Iranians have no choice on this because it's been deemed to represent an existential threat not only to Israel but to the United States. And Russia and China are also saying you can't have this thing anymore. The JCPOA is not good enough because the JCPOA was a political compromise made by Barack Obama, who never intended to see it through. They put in the sunset clauses that allowed all of the constraints to be put in up front, and then over time the sunset clauses would go away. But Obama said himself in April of 2015 that as we approach the sunset clauses, if Iran is still pursuing a nuclear program on the scope and scale that they currently indicate they are, then we're going to reconsider the whole thing and withdraw and attack. We were never serious about allowing Iran to build the nuclear infrastructure that it currently possesses today. They were never supposed to have this. They now have it, and they say that we can convert this rapidly into a nuclear weapon. This has to disappear. And that's where we're headed. Donald Trump, when he was president last time, designed a military response. The initial military response dealt with using conventional bunker busting bombs. But we can't destroy many of these underground facilities with bunker busting bombs. We can't even get to the leadership with bunker busting bombs. Now, if we're going to strike Iran and take out their nuclear sites, my guess is that we'll also go for a regime decapitation strike, which means we'll be striking the underground facilities outside of Tehran and Mashhad and elsewhere. We'll be striking their ballistic missile storage facilities, any of their underground facilities, which means we're going to use the weapons that Donald Trump designed to do this, which are B-61 modified gravity bombs designed to penetrate these bunkers, and W-76-2 low-yield nuclear weapons on board Trident missiles. We will nuke Iran. And that's the direction we're heading right now.
so
Now,
should Americans be extremely worried about this situation?
we should always be worried about this situation, but
Okay.
we should also be worried about Iran getting a nuclear weapon. There's
Okay.
not any American today that says it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, because it's not okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Iran itself says it's not okay to have a nuclear weapon. So there's no divergence there. To sit there and say Iran must be allowed to have a nuclear weapon because Israel has a nuclear weapon only invites further death and destruction.
Okay.
We have a chance right now to nip Iran's nuclear program in the bud, and we need to do that.
What I meant by that is, should we be as worried about this as the Ukraine situation?
No, the Ukraine situation can result in Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles armed with nuclear weapons impacting on American cities. The worst thing that's going to happen here is that Iran destroys regional oil infrastructure, and we have an energy crisis, which is going to be bad, but it's not going to be existential. But I don't think we're going to get to there. You see, Iran did a lot of blustering recently about how we'll never negotiate with America. Trump sent a letter, and they said, we're insulted by this letter. We don't want it. Now Trump's saying, I'm going to blow you off the face of the map. And they went, and right now, the Iranians are reaching out the diplomatic feeler. So I am hopeful that Trump's madness leads to a diplomatic outcome that wouldn't have occurred, by the way, without the madness, because left to its own devices, Iran wasn't going to negotiate, wasn't going to put it on the table, because there was no reason for them to do so. Trump has made it an existential issue, and Iran hopefully has made the right decision that it wants to survive as a nation state, and therefore they will give up their nuclear program in exchange for lifting sanctions, normalization. I don't know about normalization of relations, but the betterment of relations so that Iran can, trade with whatever nations they choose to trade with, and their economy can thrive and their people can live in peace and harmony.
So when this first happened, did it surprise you?
Yeah, I never like to see this kind of brinksmanship. It's very dangerous.
Okay.
What if Iran didn't blink? What if Iran actually said, because remember, the response from the Iranians was, if you want a trade war, we'll have a trade war. If you want this, we'll have this. Whatever war you want. I think that was China that said that, but I think the Iranians said a similar thing. And I'm like, gosh, we don't want a war, especially if it uses nuclear weapons. Plus, it's very dangerous for the United States to be threatening the use of nuclear weapons. This isn't, I mean, Trump hasn't said it overtly, but the implication is the plan that he came up with to deal with Iran's nuclear infrastructure the last time he was president is most likely the plan that he would implement today to deal with it. So this is all very dangerous. I'm not a fan of it at all. I'm just, if people think that I'm advocating for this, you're wrong. I'm simply having a fact-based assessment to you that's very serious. This is the direction we're heading. These are the potential outcomes, and this is the likely outcome based upon what is happening now. Iran is reaching out to Russia and China to find a way to negotiate about its nuclear program in a manner which um, will be acceptable to the Trump administration.
Let's say what if, let's play what if for a minute. What if Harris would have won? What would the situation be right now?
Well, first of all, I think we'd be in a situation in Ukraine that would be dominating this environment. We'd be looking at direct confrontation with the Russians that would escalate rapidly. And by this summer, there would be a general nuclear exchange between the United States and Russia, and everybody would die. On the issue of Israel and Iran, the Biden administration, Harris would have probably continued the wishy-washy approach of the Biden administration. Israel would have done anything they want. We would have resisted Israel's call to strike Iran, and Iran would continue to become closer to a nuclear weapon until at some point in time they cross the threshold and develop nuclear weapons, and then maybe the potential of an exchange between Iran and Israel. But I think that the world would end before that because of American-Russian. The Harris administration was just going to lead us down a highway to hell. I said when I voted for Trump, this was a one in, I used whatever the term was that came out of the Avengers movies, Infinity Wars, 1 in 14 million or something like that. And it's a long shot. There's no guarantee Trump can pull any of this off. But he's making an effort on Ukraine. He is doing that which the Biden administration never would have considered. And we are actively engaged in dialogue with the Russians, which is a hell of a lot better place to be than not talking to the Russians. And with Iran, he's taken regime change off the map, and he's saying all we have to do is resolve this nuclear issue, and we see a path towards peace. So there's no guarantee that he's going to succeed on any front. He could fail for any number of reasons, but at least right now, there's hope to say, okay, I can see a path out of this. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it ain't an oncoming train. Um, so as bad as Trump is, and I'm not here to say that the guy walks on water or whatever, but he's given us options that would not have existed under a Harris administration.
Right. So, within the next couple of months, this whole situation is going to be fluid, correct?
Fluid is the word of the day. Yes, there's nothing carved in stone here, and you're going to be seeing a lot of give and take. It's not going to be easy. Even if Iran agrees to engage with the Russians and the Chinese, the United States will be carefully monitoring that. On the Ukraine, Zelensky's out there contradicting everything, violating agreements made to not strike energy targets, etc. Um, Making a pact with Europe to align Europe to go to war with Russia in the next couple of years. It's a very dangerous situation, very fluid. A lot of balls in the air, and I don't know if Trump is as skilled a juggler as he thinks he is.
And as this unfolds, I'd like for you to talk on issues that matter about you enlighten the people. You don't, the stuff you're telling me and telling our audience, we don't hear on mainstream media. So I'm asking you, whenever things happen, I'd love for you to come back.
Always, Cynthia, just give me a call and you know I'll be here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You've been listening to Scott Ritter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a great day.